over 17,000 points, over 10,000 rebounds, over 1,500 steals, over 1,000 blocks. In NBA history, only 5 different players have reached this level. 4 of them will be remembered forever. Hakeem Olajuwon, Karl Malone, Kevin Garnett, LeBron James. The 5th one was unlucky? Perhaps he entered the league a few years too early. If he had been born 10 years later and spent the best years of his career in a league in love with small ball and versatile wings who lead fast breaks, shoot threes, and can defend every position on the floor, he might have been one of its biggest stars. And perhaps he should feel a sting of regret every time he heard how great Draymond Green and players like him are. Or when role players and defensive specialists win MVP awards like Andre Iguodala. He simply arrived too early for an era in which underrated players are finally appreciated. Over his 16-year career, Shawn Marion played in the All-Star game only 4 times. He was named to the All-NBA third team twice. He was never selected to an All-Defensive team. And that will most likely be enough to keep him out of the Hall of Fame. His career was as unusual as his athleticism. He spent his best years on the average Suns teams on the early 2000s and later in the shadow of Steve Nash and Amar'e Stoudemire. A turbulent split with Phoenix cost him lost seasons in Miami and Toronto. Finally, to win a championship, he sacrificed his individual ambitions in Dallas. Was he really an NBA star? Or simply the greatest role player of his era? On one hand, he was considered the most athletic player in the league. And, under Mike D'Antoni in Phoenix, no one was paid more. On the other hand, it was Steve Nash and Amar'e Stoudemire who received the praise from the media and fans. On one hand, his statistics placed him among the very best of his time. On the other hand, coaches almost never designed plays for him. And the ball did not go to him in the most important moments. On one hand, they called him the Matrix. On the other hand, they called him the Invisible Man. The Invisible Man. This is how exactly Chris Palmer titled his major feature in ESPN magazine in 2007.
Marion only wants to be noticed. His invisibility was never more apparent than in the game against the Mavericks on March 14th, which the Suns won 129-127 after 2 overtimes. With 8 seconds left in regulation, Steve Nash launched a three-pointer from near midcourt that could have tied the game, but the shot was too strong and the ball seemed to be heading straight into the hands of Dallas's Greg Buckner. In an instant, however, the man known as the Matrix appeared to snatch the ball and kick it back out to the 2-time MVP, who knocked down a jumper from the elbow. Commentators raved about how Nash had just gained the upper hand over Nowitzki in the race for the MVP award. No one mentioned Marion's play, which had saved the game. Moments like this make Marion start to wonder, where is the love? His resume certainly gives him the right to ask. 18.6 points per game and 4 All-Star selections in 8 seasons. And this year Marion is the only player in the top 20 in rebounds, field goal percentage, steals, blocks, double-doubles, and minutes.
Steve Nash is the MVP of this league, but a lot of people say that I'm the MVP of this team.
Invisibility. A strange word in the context of someone called the Matrix. But it was not just the invention of a single journalist. A year earlier, Liz Robbins asked in the New York Times why this man is not more famous.
Marion was a key figure in the Suns' race to win the division for the 2nd straight year. With Amar'e Stoudemire sidelined by injury, he led Phoenix with averages of 21.5 points and 11.9 rebounds and often defended the opponent's best players. That is why he is surprised that he is not a bigger figure on the national advertising scene. He would like to be considered in voting for Defensive Player of the Year or even MVP, but instead he feels like the 5th wheel on the team stuck behind Nash and Stoudemire.
Like anyone, I just want to be appreciated, and all you ever hear is Steve this, Amar'e that. I'm not taking anything away from them. They're my teammates. I respect them and love them to death, but I was doing what I do before they got here.
Being underrated became the central theme of his career, not just because it sold well in the media. Above all, he himself brought it up at every opportunity. In his book, 7 Seconds or Less, My Season on the Bench with the Running and Gunning Phoenix Suns, Jack McCallum returned to this theme in virtually every passage devoted to Marion.
Marion sees himself as just as important a piece of the Suns as Nash. People around him, especially his agent Dan Fegan, view him in much the same way. During the regular season, Fegan lobbied Mike D'Antoni to mention Marion as an MVP candidate in every conversation with the media. D'Antoni did so for several weeks. On the other hand, Marion lives in constant fear of being unnoticed, disrespected, ignored, insulted, harassed, alienated, and treated as someone inferior. This anxiety robs him of joy from time to time. He is genuinely a good person and should be able to enjoy the game and his life a bit more than he does.
His lack of self-worth had reportedly become such a problem that it led to absurd situations. Like the time he recorded at least 30 points and 15 rebounds in 4 consecutive games. In the next one, Mike D'Antoni took him out in the 4th quarter with the Suns holding a safe lead, unaware that no other player in franchise history had ever posted such numbers in 5 straight games. When he was told about it, he put Marion back on the floor in garbage time just to give him a chance at the historic feat. He so badly did not want Shawn to once again feel that the whole world was against him. And there was a huge paradox in this, because according to all sources, his complaints about his role never affected how he was perceived. He was one of those good NBA people, a model of behavior, a likable teammate, and a professional. As Palmer wrote,
Don't get him wrong. Marion is not trying to take anything away from Nash or start a fight. Their symbiotic relationship is full of respect and healthy admiration. Still, he would like you to sweeten things for him just a little. He wants to be recognized, says Marion, who received fewer votes in the All-Star Game voting than Shane Battier. He feels he has done enough for that to happen, but for some reason it never did.
why didn't it happen? The only thing that Marion could not do at the high level on the court was create shots for his teammates. Other than that, he delivered elite production in virtually every aspect of the basketball craft. He scored, rebounded, stole, blocked, and despite his awkward shooting form, knocked down shots from distance. Over the course of his career, Marion made 791 three-pointers while shooting 33%, the same percentage as Kobe Bryant, better than Michael Jordan. In his best season, he converted 39% of his shots from beyond the arc. It didn't really matter that his shot finished somewhere around his chin, or that experts said he only had half a shot. Throughout his entire career, Marion stubbornly refused everyone who suggested he change his mechanics, and consistently explained.
You know what's funny? People talk more about how I shoot than about what I do on the court. No one in this league shoots the same way, so why did that become the most important thing whenever people talked about what I do? I've seen players with perfect form who couldn't hit the backboard. I don't shoot any differently than anyone else.
For many experts, it was still a problem. Dan Ainge, who was his first coach in the NBA, said,
If he shot like Del Curry, we would be dealing with Michael Jordan.
and perhaps that was Shawn Marion's greatest sin? Instead of doing everything in his power to become even better, he complained that no one noticed how good a basketball player he was. And perhaps that was also the greatest sin of those who judged him. Instead of seeing how good a basketball player he was, they focused on the fact that he could have been even better. And of course, 33% from three-point range and 81% from the free throw line over the course of his career are numbers that explain Marion's reluctance to make changes. But as shooting expert David Thorpe said, those results could have been much better.
He simply hit his ceiling much lower than he could have if he had just learned how to shoot properly. People will say, well, it worked. I would say, not really.
That shot was the main reason coaches never saw Marion as a true offensive option. Or maybe it was just an excuse. The point is, Marion didn't need plays run for him. He scored in transition, off putbacks, on cuts, on lobs, and out of broken plays. And who knows if he wasn't the best at it in history. In his second season with the Suns, he began complaining to Scott Skiles that the team wasn't running plays for him. Skiles offered him a very specific arrangement.
Tomorrow I'll draw up plays for you. The next night I won't. Then you'll tell me what you think about it.
Marion agreed. In the first game, the Suns lost by 14 points, and Marion finished with a solid line, 17 points and 8 rebounds. 2 nights later, with no plays run for him at all, Marion scored 24 points and grabbed 17 rebounds. The next day he went to Skiles and said,
I get it. I don't have a problem anymore.
it didn't change the fact that during the Suns' golden years under Mike D'Antoni, Marion still kept reminding everyone just how limited his role in the offense was.
A lot of people don't understand how the NBA works. They look at the Suns as a running team and don't realize that we often play with only 2 players. Everything we do starts with pick and rolls between Steve and Amar'e. There are no plays drawn up for me. I have to go out there and fight for mine.
It is hardly surprising, then, that his nearly 9-year stay in Phoenix ended in a media drama. His need to be appreciated was simply too great. Reportedly, the impulse that led him to request a trade were the words of the team's then general manager, Steve Kerr, who allegedly told him that in the entire league, only Tim Duncan and Kevin Garnett deserved maximum contracts. It was September 2007 when Marion finally officially admitted that he wanted to leave the Suns. A few weeks earlier, his financial demands were said to have derailed a trade idea that would have sent Garnett to Phoenix. The very idea of that trade, however, bruised his ego. It took several months before Kerr found a satisfactory solution and reached an agreement with Miami on a deal that sent Marion to the Heat in exchange for Shaquille O'Neal. Few people remember it today, but at the time it looked like a great deal for Miami. Marion was only 29 years old and potentially had several years of high-level play ahead of him. He was never again, however, the same player he had been in Phoenix. And that too left its mark on how his career has been evaluated. He began to be seen as a beneficiary of Mike D'Antoni's offensive system and of Steve Nash's presence, with people forgetting how good he had been even before they arrived. Another unfortunate narrative that started to strip him of his credit? In 2011, during the Mavericks championship run, he played the role of a defensive stopper, matching up with the Kevin Durant's and LeBron Jameses of this league. His role in the team's success, however, is usually forgotten. It was Dirk Nowitzki, Jason Terry, and Tyson Chandler who were considered the stars of that team. So perhaps Shawn Marion has every right to feel bitter and to believe that he deserved more. Or perhaps it's just an illusion, and he himself attached the label of the eternally underrated player to his own name. That is a question you have to answer for yourselves. The people selecting Hall of Fame candidates will answer it as well, and then we will probably once again read that Marion was ahead of his time and the league never truly understood how good of a player he was. I have the impression that he will join that enormous group of fantastic players whom we will slowly forget. That group of second-tier stars who will be remembered only in posts on niche forums. And that is a sad thought. Because no matter how we judge his basketball legacy, Shawn Marion was part of a revolution. A prototype of the modern power forward. The godfather of this league's Draymond Greens. And that may be yet another paradox of his career. Because when he entered the NBA at the end of the previous century, it was easier to expect that we would remember him for his wild athleticism. After all, who at the time could have predicted that 16 years later, players of his size would be playing center on championship teams? Or perhaps we should simply remember that in 1999, during one preseason game, Kenny Smith nicknamed Marion the Matrix. And there have not been many more fitting nicknames in NBA history.